Hi, everybody. My name is Eduardo Cortez. I'm one of the program coordinators here with PCF, and I've been here for almost a full year. At the end of this month, it'll be a full year. So I've definitely been here, gotten a lot of different experiences. I'm really loving my time here with PCF. So, like Mike said, I'm going to be going over what imposter syndrome is, some definitions, and also some different ways to overcome imposter syndrome. For those of you that may not know what it is, here's a brief definition, which is doubting your abilities and feeling like you don't belong in your institution, place of work, and or social settings. Now, believe it or not, imposter syndrome definitely can go past your institution. It definitely can take place in your place of work. And I definitely have felt it myself. When I started this position, I myself am first gen. So I definitely understand the struggle of being first gen, not knowing how to navigate, the education system, and it was all new to me, just how it is to all of you. So I definitely felt it in school, definitely having that feeling of, do I belong here? Do I not belong here? Should I be in this course? Having those feelings is definitely valid. But it also definitely came, to me in my place of work. When I first started with PCF and, being first gen, I'm first in my family to be able to obtain a position like this. And so I'm used to working those, manual jobs, janitorial, maintenance, things like that, just because that's what my family, has been doing for years. And so obtaining a job like this, I was the first one. So it was kind of difficult. It was a little overwhelming at first. And I did, think about it. Do I really belong here? Am I okay with being here? But obviously the hiring committee saw something in me and, I was able to get the job. So just being able to overcome those feelings and understanding that you do belong is super important. So here's just a few examples of what imposter syndrome can sound like or be like. So the first example is, I don't belong being at this university. I don't come from wealth like my peers. Like I previously mentioned, I definitely have been there. It's definitely an experience, but you definitely belong there. You made it to your university because you have proven yourself that you are able to get there, and what got you into your university will definitely get you out. So don't it's normal to have those feelings, but definitely try to stray away from them and try to have other feelings, and not try to stay in that feeling of being an imposter. The second one, Carlos is more deserving of my position because he attended a more prestige university. It shouldn't matter where you attended, as long as you were able to attend a university, an institution, and get your education. Carlos may have gone to a more prestige university, but you and Carlos may have gotten the same education, and that shouldn't matter. As long as, you got your education and everybody brings different skill sets into a work environment. And the last one that I have here is if the project isn't completely perfect, I'm a failure. And I feel like, again, personally, I can definitely relate to this. It's definitely something that has happened to probably all of us. You try your hardest in a project or your homework or whatnot, and sometimes it may not be exactly what you were looking for or exactly how you pictured it. And sometimes we dwell in the smallest of failure instead of looking at all of the positives that you have accomplished during the way. And so now I'm going to mention a few of the different types of imposter syndrome. And these are just a few that I saw during research while I was preparing for this presentation. There definitely is some more, but I think these are the ones that are most relatable to. So kind of going back to that last example that I gave, the perfectionist. So the perfectionist looks for things to go perfect. Any slight errors can lead to feelings of shame and or guilt. And so again, the perfectionist is somebody who is trying to make everything perfect. And if the slightest of things doesn't go the way that they planned, they feel like they're failing. They feel guilt, they feel shame, because one thing didn't go exactly as they planned. Sometimes we don't acknowledge all of the good things that we did, all of our efforts and everything. And it's important to always try to celebrate those things just as much as, things that have failed. But this definitely is one. The second one is the superhero. So the superhero success is based on how many roles they can play. If they can't play all the roles perfectly, they feel like a fraud. So again, I feel like a lot of us have probably felt this way in some point in our lives, where you're in a new setting, you're trying to make a good impression, and you're trying to, do every single role just so that people can, see your worth, and they base their worth on all of the roles that you're taking. Again, if you're not able to play every single role right, you feel like a fraud. You feel like you are, up to par to be there. But again, not everybody is perfect at everything. What you excel in, probably your peer lacks in, and vice versa. That's why working in a team is always super important, because you're able to bring in what you have. Your team members can bring in what they have, and then together you guys can work as one, to make the magic happen. The third one that we have is the expert. So the expert seeks to know everything. In the face of even the slightest lack of knowledge about something, they feel like a failure. So this is somebody that, while I was doing my research, was also, a lot of people see this person as kind of like the know-it-all. And it's because they know a lot of information, they know a lot of facts, and sometimes if they completely, don't know everything about one thing, and they're in front of people, in front of their friends or any social gathering, they may feel like, wow, I don't know it all. People are expecting more from me. And again, you shouldn't have those feelings, but it does happen, and it is a form of the imposter syndrome. Second to last is the natural genius. And so the natural genius expects to meet high goals quickly and effortlessly. When things get difficult, they feel very ashamed. So this person, a lot of things come natural to them. They try to, do everything as much as they can. And if they aren't able to get something, super quickly, they feel like, they're very ashamed when it comes to it. And last but not least, the soloist. The soloist needs to do everything alone, without the help of anybody. And they interpret needing help as a sign of weakness. And so this person, if they're not able to do everything all by themselves and they need to ask for help, they will see themselves as, being a failure and not being up to par with, probably their peers. And again, it's not good to have this sense of, mentality, just because at the end of the day, we all need help sometimes. We all need to, that's why teams are there. That's why we work in teams. Because again, what one person is lacking, another person, they may have that skill set, and together you guys are able to make the project work more effortlessly. And so now that I talked a little bit about, different types of imposter syndrome, I'm going to talk about different ways to overcome imposter syndrome. So at the very top, we have, you need to understand that you belong at your university or employment just as much as your peers and or colleagues. So like I mentioned earlier, you belong where you are. You were able to get a seat at your university. You were able to get there because of the way that you have, done your accomplishments. You were able to, pass your courses and do all this stuff, and you were able to get into the seat that you are in now. So you belong there just as much as the other student that is right, next to you, who probably came from wealth, who probably isn't first gen, who probably, they have so many other things, but you belong there just as much as that other person does. Sometimes it can take a while for you to understand that, or sometimes it'll be a while for you to, really take that in, but really understand that you belong where you are. Number two, try to get involved with organizations that align with your roots. Be the diversity that you want to see and or be a part of. I will say, when I was in college, one thing that I do regret is not being part of organizations or clubs that I felt really rooted to, just because I don't know, I feel like I was kind of shy. I didn't really want to be involved in too much, but now I wish I would have. And so if you're able to get into a club that is not necessarily only for Latinx or Chicanx students, do it. You should really do it. Or if there is, any other cultural club or organization that you feel, really rooted to, I definitely recommend for you to do so, just so that you're able to be a part of it, learn more about, who is there, the community, and it really is a sense of community for you and for everybody else. The third one is to celebrate every single one of your successes, no matter how big or small. This is really a big one, because I feel like a lot of the times we always acknowledge the big things. You get all A's, you get a promotion, these big accomplishments, but we don't celebrate the little ones. If you get a B, you still pass your class. You get a C, you still pass your class. celebrate that. Any celebration that happens, whether it be academical, personal, and work related, any celebration or any success is super important. So no matter how big or small it is, I definitely recommend for you all to celebrate everything. Just because being first gen, we don't really celebrate those small successes. We only focus on the big ones, but they are just as equally as important as those big celebrations. And last but definitely not least, accept your failures, learn from them, reflect from them, and move on. At one point or another, we all may fail. There may come a time where things don't go exactly as you planned. Things, aren't exactly as you were thinking, or they don't come out perfect. But it's okay. It happens to all of us. Reflect on what went wrong. What can you do differently for next time? And move on. And the next time, do it better with those things that you could have done better. So again, that was a little bit about imposter syndrome. I hope you all learned something, and I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to my next colleague.